I'm Calcutta alumni and an electrical engineer by qualification. She's a second generation entrepreneur. Her company, the Universal Group, has a workforce of more than 200 people. Universal is a consultancy and engineering solutions providing company and is one of the biggest names in HVAC industry in Calcutta and Eastern India. Apart from being a young and dynamic entrepreneur, Nilanjana is also the secretary of ISHRE Kolkata chapter, member of the National Youth Committee of ISHRE, and part of the President's Peace Brigade for the current society year of ISHRE. Nilanjana is a passionate speaker and likes to take sessions with students and young professionals on various topics related to entrepreneurship and personality development. Welcome, Nilanjana. Nilanjana, are you audible? Are you there? Hello, Nilanjana.
Yes, Manish sir, I'm there.
Okay, great.
Yes, I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're very much audible now.
Yes,
And
yes.
without wasting much time, because we have taken quite a bit of time to start this panel discussion, I would like to hand over the proceedings of the evening to you, Nilanjana.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Manish sir. And the delays, I would like to humbly apologize because today being the International Youth Day and me being a youth member, I was part of 3 programs today. This is the last one that I have been doing today as the moderator of the panel. And I cannot thank for all the opportunities that my chapter has given me throughout my professional journey. And I can humbly say that this is one amongst the many that I have already had in my life. And today, in one of the discussions where Amitabh Sulkar was also present, and I was telling them that this is a wonderful opportunity how I started my history journey as a student member and currently in many chapter activities. And also will be helping you sail through this panel discussion now. The panel is a very distinguished panel. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Nilanjana,
Yes,
you are audible
yes,
now.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry for the technical glitch. So, continuing with my introduction of Mr. Abhik Roy, Andric Gracia is the first company to come up with a unique design cigar case of over 150 designs, and the customer case included Arnold and a list of Beverly Hills celebrities. We welcome you, Mr. Abhik Roy. We are proud to have you as part of the panel here. The second panelist today is Mr. Shomajit Banerjee, who is also the president of the chapter. Welcome, Mr. Banerjee. He is working currently in Lindstorm, and he has been part of the HVAC industry for quite long now, and he has got vast experience of 3 zones in creating sustainable operations, hygiene, elevation, and safety protocols in various industry. He is involved in creating entrepreneurs through a business of 21st century for the last 13 years. The next distinguished panelist for today's panel is Mr. Saurav Sarkar. And I'm very proud that sir is also a member of our CWC team. He is the faculty in charge for our Jadavpur University Students Chapter. I welcome you, Saurav sir. It's a pleasure having you here. Mr. Saurav Sarkar presently serves as an assistant professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Jadavpur University, Kolkata. He obtained his master's degree from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, IIT Madras. He graduated from Jadavpur University. Professor Sarkar was awarded the Senior Research Fellowship from the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR. He is the recipient of Professor N. Venkatar Yulu Memorial Prize for the Best Academic Record in IIT Madras for the year 2012-13. Professor Sarkar's current research activities include combustion, multi-phase flow, computational fluid dynamics, refrigeration and air conditioning. Welcome, sir. We are very proud to have you. The next member on the panel is Mr. Shanko Bhattacharya, currently CEO Satya Aircon and Engineering Services Private Limited, ex-DGM Blue Star Limited West Zone, Regional Manager Blue Star Limited East Zone, 25 years of experience in the HVAC industry, started a career in Aircon as a sales executive. He's a life member of ISHRE. He's currently the refrigeration chair of our chapter. And he's also a very, very dynamic personality. Welcome you, Mr. Bhattacharya.
Thank you.
Thank you. So without much further ado, let us go into the discussion straight. So the topic for the day is a very interesting one, that is importance of youth in the emerging socio-economic reform, self-reliant India or Atmanirbhar Bharat. So to everybody, I have a common question to start with. Can the panelists tell me 3 important key areas where they think the youth can contribute the most towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat? Any 3 areas you think that the work of youth is most necessary, or the attention of youth is most necessary towards achieving the collective goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat? May I start with you, Mr. Abhik Roy?
এটা হচ্ছে না পারছি।
Mr. Abhik Roy?
Hi, can I be heard?
Yes. You're audible now, sir.
Okay. So can you kindly repeat the question? I was not able to hear it.
Yeah. So, sir, I was saying that according to our topic, which are the 3 key important areas, according to you, where you think that the youth can contribute the most towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat or the collective goal of a self-reliant India?
Well, on the onset, let me tell you, I am not an expert, and I may have a view which is slightly different. But to put it very simply, I am a big fan of Albert Einstein, and I believe that every person has his own potential. And if you look at India now, and if we consider that there is going to be an issue with import from China, then the potential that lies is actually immense. I don't think there are any specific areas. Actually, the area is too wide. Any product you take, if you come to think about it, most of them come from China. So today, if the youth, they move at startups and small manufacturing, then there is a huge potential we're about to tap. If today you look around us, even be it real estate products, be it our household products, there is hardly anything that is actually manufactured in India. From that perspective, I personally feel that today, with the online being now the main area of business, every person has a great potential to build on whatever little strength he has got by focusing on the quality that he has got and therefore getting the result. That is my take on this. Because I am primarily from the MSME sector and the handicraft and the handmade exclusive product sector. There I see a great potential in this area. China had dominated that sector in a huge way. To give an example, the total gift import of US, India is only 0.5%. The rest is China. So any product that we have, see, area-wise defining is a much bigger scale work. From my perspective, from my knowledge, I can tell you this, that the product that you see being sold even in Gadiahat or Hatibagha, They are also found in Walmart. The only reason why we are not able to export is because the people who are making it either don't have the expertise or don't have the access to technology by which they can sell it directly to the customer. It is as simple as that. So to keep things simple, any product around us, any product, starting from say maybe your bathroom tile to any inner, for example, any electrical product that we use in our house, anything you look at it, we have a great potential. That is the way I look at it. Only focus would be good quality. Today, degrading China is one aspect, but we have to also admit that China do also have some control on quality. Otherwise, Apple would not get manufactured there. So wherever we are able to hold on to that quality and give it at the right price, we have the potential. As far as youth is concerned, other than infrastructure, I don't see a huge growth potential in terms of the government being spending money and creating jobs. So unless they move into being, small startups on their own, it is very difficult to have one area where all the growth will happen, or everybody will, get some success. That is my take on that. Because I believe every person comes with his own potential and his own strength area. They cannot be actually, grouped into certain categories. And right now, with the internet opening up, everybody now can look at avenues like Flipkart or Amazon, where in their own ways they're able to sell. They don't have to be a very big manufacturing house or have to have a very big setup to be able to do something very good. The scope is therefore quite wide. That's my take on this.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights on that. Can I have Mr. Saurav Sharkar? Saurav, sir, can I have your opinion on the same? What do you think, according to you, the 3 key areas where youth involvement will make huge difference?
Yeah, thank you for your kind introduction. Just what I feel that we have to understand that what India's vision towards this Atmanirbhar Bharat. So basically 2 things is there. First part is that India is trying to become a manufacturing hub for all types of product, not only meet its own demand, but also supply in a global market. This is the first thing. And also India is planning to promote its private sector so that it can supply different goods to Indian market and also compete. So these are the 2 factors. So whenever you are trying to create or you are trying to promote Indian companies, there is a huge lag in the research and development. So we need to create an environment where the research and development can be promoted. So basically the first thing, we need more people in R&D. So for that, what we need to do, we need to change the approach of our education. First thing is that, the next thing is that we have to develop the skill for problem solving attitude so that we can solve our own Indian problems, because most of the education is based on the US and the UK academics based problems. So now we never look into our own problems. So the youth should be invest more time or more energy to solve the problems which are more relevant to Indian context. And the third point, if I try to mention that we need to change the mindset towards the Indian products, so we can become a good customer for the quality Indian products. So that is my take on this question.
Very rightly pointed out, sir. I think research and development would play a major role if we want to make ourselves self-reliant and Atmanirbhar. And very valid point that you have made with your deep insights. Can I have Mr. Shomajit Banerjee, your take on this?
Yeah, thank you, Nilanjana, for the introduction, and very well put up a question. What are the 3 key areas, if I just rephrase it, 3 key areas where the involvement of youth is going to be very much required? I would take just the 3 main points which I feel would be. One would be entrepreneurship. There are various industry options. What Mr. Avik Roy has put up is very right, that we have been dependent on one country for far too long. And if I talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, the concept there, the MSME sector is a focus area of the government. So in that options, there are a lot of options in the sense of factories or the companies or the other industries which I can talk about. For example, auto ancillary. We could be the part manufacturer of the world. It's an open global market. Then we could have an option of industrial consumables like abrasives, refractories, or electromagnetic materials. So this is one of options where entrepreneurship which is being promoted by the society at large, as well as the government, which is part of the society, and that's where we can really grow. That's point number 1 area. Point number 2 area I would talk about is back to the basics. This pandemic has given a big big slap on our face and given a very clear dictum to all of us. We got to focus on our basics. We learned roti kapda makan once upon a time, and today when we talk about this situation, we have food, clothes, shelter in English, as well as health and education, which has actually been a big opportunity wherein we can think about growth. Every country is fighting out for the COVID vaccine, right? Even India, a lot of companies are trying out. So health is also a big focus area where you can involve. And thirdly, I would talk about is this is an opportunity to go beyond the ordinary. We got to look beyond cities, boss. We had enough of tier 1 cities. We got to talk about tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. That's the uncharted territories. That's where the business lies. And a lot of companies have already taken a lot of leaps and bounds of steps. I can take an example of ITC, which started of eChopa long back. So these 3 areas, entrepreneurship, back to basics, and going beyond the ordinary would be my points to talk about or think about the youth to take forward this case. Thank you.
Very, very relevant points made by Mr. Shomajit. Can I have Mr. Shanko Bhattacharya for his insights on the same? Mr. Bhattacharya?
Hello. Now I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Nilanjana, for the briefs and eminent speakers out here. I would start my speech by saying that what Vivekananda had said 100 years back, maybe more or less 100 years back, that hope of the future lies in the youths of character, intelligence, renouncing all for the services of others. So that would be the first thing that we look from the youth. Okay, and youth as of now today, you see it's the strength of India. About 65% of India's population is below 35 years and 50% is below 25 years. So with this huge educated young population, India is uniquely poised to realize its demographic potential, obviously. And the fact that Indians are heading in several MNCs shows that there is no dearth of knowledge and talent in this country. However, talking as to upgrade our position, we need to upgrade the skills or upskill the youth to meet the employment needs of technology-driven 21st century. That is our first and foremost requirement. So if you talk about Atmanirbhar, it has basically, we have seen that there are twin objectives for this. One is a short term and another is a long term. So what is the short term policies? Means what we are looking for short term. Reviving different spheres of the economy is the short term thought of this Atmanirbhar objective. And protecting India from any future global economic shutdown or downturn by making it robust in the long run. So these are the 2 major objectives which we look from the youth perspective. And if you take, I'm not saying that the sectors, there are many sectors. Like if you talk about, talk about the what our Honorable Prime Minister has said about the tranche of the various opportunities, that is basically the MSME or maybe the agricultural segment. He has said many where the growth and the businesses are being looked upon. But I would take in a different way. See, now our key areas where we really want the involvement of the youth would be, one would be the healthcare sector. This has not only include doctors or the physicians, but also the paramedical staff. Current pandemic situation has shown us that we are actually on the wrong foot by having pandemic staff who are at a vulnerable age category. So we cannot have this. And also we would look for the youth to come into the law enforcement, because that is one of the areas where we need to have a cleaner people to really enforce the law and look forward. And obviously my third area will be planning for youth affairs. So these are the three areas I would look that is to be looked up very seriously, where the youth involvement is very, very much required. That's all from my side, I would say to Nilanjana for your question.
I think that's very valuable insights we have got from all the panelists on the key areas which they wish the youth could be more active or the youth should pay more attention. My next question to Mr. Abhik Roy, you're an entrepreneur, sir, and you have had quite a long and interesting entrepreneurial journey also. See, sir, this is the time of a lot of startups. We see every other day one new startup has come up and they are coming up with some disruptive idea, like let's say Oyo or Swiggy or something like that, or maybe Ola also. And they completely take the traditional business environment by a shock. Or maybe let's say they completely shake up the traditional business practices and the traditional business, the way the traditional businesses have been functioning. So do you think that the startups are one of the key factors in which the youth should invest their energy in? Should we have more startups coming up with such disruptive ideas for the self-reliant India?
One of my favorite term in life, by which I live my life, you can say, is called CAVU. CAVU. It's an aviation term. It means ceiling and visibility unlimited. I personally believe that what I have done in my own business also is that I completely disturbed the market where I entered. I'll come to that later, but coming to your point, the only way we can actually make a difference right now, being Indians, is to disturb the market. Now, how do you disturb the market? You disturb the market by living your dreams and having faith in yourself and, trying to do something so innovative that nobody has done before that. Innovation does not cost money. The imagination is most important. Unless you know what new to create, the cost doesn't matter anyways. And once you're able to figure that out, I'm quite sure we can easily do that. I will give you a very brief example of what I had done. When I entered, you see, I am from India. I'm not even a smoker. So when I started designing cigar cases, I was more or less a laughing stock. I mean, when I first approached Harrods trying to say I make cigar cases, the manager didn't let me enter also. On the third attempt, I was able to enter that shop in London. And once they saw the product, then it was a home run. Now coming to the main point, what I did. If you look at the cigar case industry, it is ruled by big names. Louis Vuitton, Porsche, Davidoff, Dunhill. Best of the best. Money is never an issue. It is always the quality that matters. Now, where do I come from? My father was a gold medalist. My mother was a teacher. I started my life in a 700 square feet flat, rented flat. So that is my background. My father doesn't have pots of money where he can support and I can dream. No way. So my only resource was knowledge. When I was working with India and Rayon, then internet was, very new. Like, you had to dial up and do those kind of things in the year 2000. So 1998, 99. So while surfing the internet, I got very passionate about cigars. When I got very passionate about cigars, I got hooked into it and I liked it so much, I started designing cases on my own. Then I realized, and now coming to the main point, I am actually more of a product designer than entrepreneur. Entrepreneur comes later, product designing comes first. What is my thumb rule? Like we are talking about startup. So I'm giving you my example. When you look at the functionality of a product, the design is more or less apparent. I mean, if you look at a car, the design of a Porsche or Ferrari is in line with the fact that they have to go at a high speed. That's the aerodynamics. Similarly, if you look at the cigar industry, my industry, for example, for hundreds of years, we had a cigar case of 2 leather parts. Now, everybody knows if you sit on a cigar case, the cigar will be crushed. Everybody knows who smokes cigars that you need a humidor to store the moisture so that the cigars don't get dry. I simply use these 2 informations. I created a cigar case which has got wood inside, for which I have a patent. Probably the only guy having patent in India after the US and all those people. All I did was I incorporated a cedar lining inside the cigar case and put aluminum on the sides, making it stronger. So a 90 kg person can stand on my cigar case. It will not bend. Number 1. Secondly, what I did, the rich and the famous, they want new ways to satisfy themselves. So I put in a place where you can put a humidifier and a cigar carter in the cigar case. I have the patent for that. That you have a humidification built in on the cigar case. So when somebody is traveling, the cigars won't get dry. Question is, did I invent this? No. Everybody knew this. But nobody bothered to create a cigar case which is handy, which you can show off, carry around, and at the same time, humidify, at the bottom. So your cigars won't get dry. You have a self-satisfying system. Suppose Megran wants to order his father, something for his father, then he calls me. Those are our customers. We have been able to have a niche in the world market and probably the best-selling brand in the world. Arnold Schwarzenegger was our first fan. But before that, it has been very tough, and we have been thrown out of all the offices we have tried initially. So that is what it is. So once you innovate and you have a product that nobody can really say, no, it is bad, then you have made it. And that scope is always there. Be it Swiggy, be it Ola, all of them has thought out of the box. They have done something so different that people like it. And end of the day, it has to make sense. If you start thinking that just because I don't have money, I can't be successful, that is a very wrong way of putting it. You first must have a passion. Like I had a passion for cigars. Once you have the passion in the right way and you pursue with all your heart, that part is there. And the youth must be told one thing, that failure is always a good option. You should try and focus either to be a great success or a great failure. Mediocre cannot be an option. You should have the risk of failing in life. Otherwise, how can you do well? And everybody has their own skill set. It is not mandatory that a guy who is not a technical person has to be a technical genius. It is not needed. If you look around us, many people are successful who may not be great in academics, who may not be great in many, many things, but they're also good in certain areas. It is better that you figure out what area you are strong at, and you figure that out and you focus on that. You will see, Virat Kohli uses this word in the zone or in the flow. These are words which are very crucial because, once you start liking something and you're passionate about it, then the work is fun. Then it is not stressful. Then any innovation will happen automatically because 24 hours you're thinking of that. Everybody knows one simple thing. If you have a good product, good quality, best price, you can sell. So price is not an issue. Low price is not an issue. So China is not a competitor. Today people want to buy an Apple phone. Why? It is cheap. No. Then it is quality. And once you have a quality, the next part comes the branding part. That is also equally important. You can have a very good product, but sometimes without branding, it may not be successful. So branding also, we have many eminent people here, they can guide more. In my area, I can tell you what I have done or what I did, which helped me a lot because I am into the niche market. I am in the market where a person is super rich. They wake up in the morning and decide how to spend money. And I have to give them a reason why they will spend. Money is never a criteria. So with that kind of people, the only thing that works is innovation and quality at the highest level. In my cigar cases, you'll be happy to know I use the same quality of leather that is used by Rolls-Royce and Bentley and Porsche. I found out the same supplier of who manufactures for them, the Bavarian Bull leather. So all my cigar cases are guaranteed for life. Usually Nilanjana, there is an upper limit for any good quality, whatever you do. Beyond that, you can't go. Leather, if you take the Bavarian leather, which Louis Vuitton uses, what is beyond that? Nothing. After that, quality also, there is a benchmark beyond which you don't need to. Once you're able to do that, I'm telling you, if you don't cut corners, success automatically will happen. And we have multiple examples where you will see cheaper cars not getting sold, luxury cars being sold, which means money is not the criteria. People are now conscious. They want to have a good product. They want to have value for the money they're spending. That, from that perspective, India is far superior place than China. That's how I look at it. And we are extremely good in disrupting people, other than the politics, which we are any good at.
Very, very correctly pointed out, Avik said that currently if India has to survive, it has to think of innovative ideas and it has to think of disrupting the existing markets, and the youth, all the youth listening to us today, have a very big role to play in that. And very rightly pointed out, another eternal truth is that follow your passion. Once you're passionate about something and you follow that and you make that your profession, excellence is bound to follow you. Very good. So taking a cue from that, let us shift a little bit towards the educationists that we have in the panel today. Mr. Sarkar, tell us something that you are into education and you are a part of Jadavpur University, which is one of the best colleges in the country, I would say. And you meet a lot of young minds daily. how do you think that you as an educationist who is meeting the young minds can shape up the young minds to think differently, to think in a way which is not averse to risk taking? How can they take advantage of the current situation, move and follow their passion, and how can you guide them to not be afraid of failures?
Yeah, it's a very relevant question. So I like to continue from where Mr. Roy was trying to say that if we are looking for enterprises, we are looking for startups, we are looking for private sector, they are mostly going to come up with a new product. So now the question is that how this new product will evolve. So if any Indian sector is trying to develop a new product which will going to compete in the global market, so there is R&D is a necessary thing. They have to concentrate on the improving the product, technology, or the processes. So this is a necessary thing. But if I try to give you the what is the scenario, Indian scenario in research, with the private companies and the state government staying almost out of the research and development field, India's expenditure on R&D is sustained at a level far behind that in other competing economies. India spent less than 1% of its GDP on research and development activities. Like countries like US, China, Israel, Korea, they spend 2.5% to 4.5%, where India spends only 0.6% to 0.7%. I am repeating, India spent 0.6% to 0.7% of GDP on research and development. But I also like to mention that India is the largest exporter of research engineers, mostly in US. So this is the scenario. Now I'm just giving one example that if Indian company is going to develop in a market, if I give you one example that consider the case of Indian motorcycle industry. For almost 25 years, Hero Honda was the undisputed leader based on the Honda's high efficiency fuel efficient 4-stroke engine technology. When this joint venture came about in 2011, the Honda was able to rapidly build up its independent two-wheeler business in India. But Hero had not only go for quick research technology, it shifted his R&D fund from 0.5% to 3.5%. Now Hero is again gaining his market. So we understood that the research is only way to survive in the market. Innovation is the key. So now if I go back to the background that we already missed the third industrial revolution where the China occupied the market of electronic goods, microprocessor, personalized computer, mobile phones. So now there is a big opportunity for the upcoming technologies like artificial intelligence, biotechnology, electric and fuel cell vehicles, electricity storage systems, green energy, pharmaceutical, municipal solid waste management. So government is mostly trying to focus on these areas, and based on that, it is trying to develop one expertise. Now the question is that how it can be done. So the main solution of this process is that we have to change our education system. The approach towards education system needs to be changed. The students needs to explore, research, and use all the tools to uncover something new. It involves different way of looking at the problems and solving them. Now there is a big change is going to come in the education system. Already we have seen the national education policy. The learning in the colleges is going to be project based, not course based. The project based learning is basically a student centered pedagogy that involves dynamic classroom approach in which it is believed that the students acquire a deeper knowledge through active exploration of the real life challenges. So students will learn from a subject by working on them an extended period of time to investigate and respond to a complex question. The main objective is that we are going to reject the paper-based rote memorization, teacher-led instruction, and we are going to accept more like posing question, problem solving aptitude. So these are the things that is going to change, and based on that, what is going to happen? As government is going to invest huge money on R&D and is trying to handhold the private sectors so that they can evolve with a certain period of time, because the private sector cannot take the whole lead in the market at the current situation. So there will be a huge opportunity in the research field. There are high profile research jobs that is coming in the private sectors. There are more number of PhD scholarship. People are going to get job after completion of PhD, which is almost absurd in India still now. People mostly get PhD, after PhD they mostly join into academics, but there will be a huge industry academics collaboration. So this is the way. So we have to change our education systems. This is the one thing. And The students have to be innovative. If I just like to quote that, as a futurist and philosopher, Alvin Toffler once quote that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. The illiterate of 21st century will not be those who can read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So this is my point on this.
Very, very rightly pointed out. I think this is the century to learn, unlearn, relearn, relearn maybe, if possible. And that is what will help us to achieve the collective goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat. I will just shift towards Mr. Bhattacharya now. Sir, you have vast industry experience. You have been in the industry for quite long. We are going through a very tough situation currently. And mental health is one of the topics that is being discussed very widely now. The situation of employment across the country is not, I would say across the world, is not as great as it used to be. And in this scenario, depression and things like this very quickly creep inside the youth, because youth are very ambitious. I would say youth are little bit weak when they face the failure, and their mental health needs to be at a proper position in this kind of scenario. How do you think in this current situation they can channelize their energy, their youthful energy, and make it fruitful towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat?
It's really a good question, but very difficult to answer, Nilanjana. But still, from my perspective, I will try to answer your question. That see, as per the current global scenario, the new normal scenario, every youth has to develop certain skill sets, which earlier we used to refer as social, useful, productive work. So in this essence, the skill sets has to be developed, which cannot be really developed by a computer or a machine. It cannot be developed. So that skill set has to be developed or maybe imbibed within the people or within the youth. See, if you really talk about what skill sets we think about, see, it is landscaping, or whatever you see, maybe farming, using techniques that can be help in the storage of water or utilization of rainwater, or maybe which we come across on our regular basis. We see it across. Maybe some green waste management techniques, and maybe for the people who loves music can try playing different musical instruments, and by that they can come to a calmness or their tense minds. So that is very much required, because youth today has faced regularly, they are facing certain challenges which may not be very suitable as per the socio-economic environment we are going through. So again, I would like to say the words of Swami Vivekanand, say that I'm just reading out the mantras for the youth, that be a hero, always say I have no fear. Believe in yourself and the world will be at your feet. Strength is life, weakness is death. And we have seen that there are many incidences which are happening in the current scenario. Arise, awake, and stop, not till the goal is reached. And one of my favorite quotes, like Ovik said, I have a favorite quote of Vivekananda: talk to yourself once in a day, otherwise you may miss meeting an excellent person in this world. So these are the few points, and one of the topmost thing, the greatest sin is to think yourself weak. That every stage we may stumble, but we need to come back, and that would be our life. So there is no question of failure. And you see how the youths has come across in you see Ritesh Agarwal. See, we have seen many entrepreneurs even in this scenario of India. They have come across Oyo rooms, like Obik was selling, that Swiggy and other people have come. You have seen Akhilendru Sahu, he's in ASTNT digital marketing. So you have Tilak Mehta, who has a 13-year teenager who has developed a company, Papers and Parcel. And there are brothers Shravan and Sanjay. They have Go Dimensions, which is mobile application developers. So there are many such examples which will actually, there is no point that depression may come, but even we need to come back. We need to come back, and they are the force. Like 50% of the population when there is youth, so they only can change the dimension of India. That much I can answer to your question. I think it is quite relevant what your question is.
Very correctly said, sir. Nobody is immune to failure, and anybody at any point of time can encounter failure in your life. But the point is not the failure. The point is how you emerge stronger from that failure. And any great discovery in the world has ultimately come out of a failure. And the person who is most rejected is sometimes the most successful person as well. So yes, it is important to keep your mental health in correct pace. For all the youth over there, do not let depression or do not let other things creep into you, especially in current situation. Please reach out, please speak, and of course there will be many people waiting to help you out. Again, back to some of the basics. My next question would be to Mr. Shomaji. Now this is the boom of social media. This is the boom of the online culture. I would point it out. Everything is happening towards a distant mode. And we know that, marketing your product, marketing your idea forms a big relevance in the success of entrepreneurship. And you have also been attached with many entrepreneurs in the past, and you encourage entrepreneurship in the youth. Tell us something, sir. Is this the very right time to take the plunge? If somebody was waiting that, when is the right time for me to take the plunge into entrepreneurship? Is this the golden time? And should a person who has, a right kind of idea or the right kind of innovation can take advantage of this digital mode? How can they take advantage and leverage this digital culture and jump into the dream of entrepreneurship?
Thank you, Nilanjana. It's a wonderful question, I must say. And I'll try to answer this with an example. It's definitely a right time, because we need to remember one thing. The law of gravity was actually discovered during the bubonic plague in the 15th century rather. So the apple fell on near Newton. I would not say on Newton. The apple fell near Newton when there was plague all around, and he had something to ponder about his thesis and details, which he could not do it at his office. So definitely every adversity is an opportunity. I'll give you one more example very closer to home. When this pandemic situation occurred, it was a fact that we were not prepared for it. For example, I would say, for that matter, no, the world was not prepared for it. And India, if I talk about Indian scenario, we were not prepared for it. And we did not have any, and I'm into that industry, so we did not have any PPE manufacturers. And imagine the time now. After the pandemic occurred, we had so many PPE manufacturers, ventilator manufacturers, we had government support, the IIT Roorkee's worked out some options. Then we had mask manufacturers, and how did they crop up? Some new people entered the market, and some people diversified. So there's always an opportunity in adversity. And I also give an example pertinent to the question. The youth is very much related to social media. The Instagrams and the Facebooks and the Twitters, if you see that number of followers, you would see the majority of those people are below 35, if I talk about that level as a youth. So networking through social media has been in existence well before this lockdown and the new normal situation happened, right? So people were more ready to use their thumbs to say hi rather than putting up their hand up to say hi, right? So you understand what I mean to say. So networking has been continuing with the youth. So what if you use this networking theory, networking option into a business proposal? Like for example, how about network marketing? If you search through Google, if you search through a lot of business pages, network marketing is going to be a next big thing in future in India too, because it works on population advantage. There's a lot of other companies don't, whether industries don't. So with a seed capital of practically zero, we can have a huge network marketing business, and that too entirely on social media. So in that way, there's in that way, there's a huge opportunity for the youth to talk about these lines and think about these lines to option, then market their products, market their service, and create a huge potential for themselves, for the industry, as well as create a big market for all of us to enjoy. Thank you.
Right. Very wonderfully said and very wonderfully put. We may all use the power of the thumb. And definitely, I personally believe that there is no right time for doing anything. You just have to do it and make it right. And probably that is the kind of attitude the youth needs to follow now. Shifting again to Mr. Roy. Sir, everybody knows the rage that is going on against China now. And everybody is somehow a party to that rage also. And there are a lot of manufacturers in India who can contribute or take advantage of this rage, and also with the Make in India movement now gaining a lot of popularity. Would you say for Indian manufacturers, this is the golden era and they should definitely take the plunge now? And if somebody believes into going into the next level of diversification or maybe spreading their business in some way, this is the right time to do it?
This is the perfect time, if you ask me personally. Now, since we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, any discussion on this is not complete without taking the mention of Jamshedji Tata. Legend says that he was once refused to, allow in a very high-end hotel in Mumbai, and that inspired him to build the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel. So we know that Indians are always very angry and the youth is angry. So we need to channelize that anger into creating something so radical and so great that it is like an inspiration. We should not appear like an opportunity that just because China is not able to do, we have somehow, got that chance and we are somehow going to, manage and do something about that. That is not how it is. I believe every person is a genius in his own way, like Albert Einstein said. But if you start judging the fish by its ability to climb a tree, then that's not going to work. So today, I have heard the discussion from Shomojit and also Saurav, and I have understood the part of R&D also. But if you look at MSME, not a great amount of research is required. What is actually required is the intention to do something with a very good quality. That's all. And that quality need not be a Six Sigma quality. That's what I'm trying to say. Today, starting from a spoon to a bicycle, everything doesn't require a huge R&D. All it requires is the intention and the mentality of not to cheat the customer and to do to give the right product so that it's able to at least meet the standard that the customer is expecting. Now, again, my strength area being MSME and handicraft sector, and answering your question on China, why it's a great opportunity. If China was exporting 60,000 crore to US, right now that might go to zero. And we were at 0.5%. Now that is, we are not here discussing brilliant technology and rocket science. We are discussing here handicraft. We are discussing here goods of gifts. That's all. So that is the level of opportunity that lies. If you look around US, how many people are working? Very few. They are all SO types, like, small office, home office. Everybody tries to be an entrepreneur. That is the culture that has to be inculcated to the youth. One thing that I see lacking in the youth right now, which Shankhu was trying to address, is getting depressed very fast. Now, this is an area I don't agree with the current scenario, because I believe people, due to the social media, and our culture was to help our family and our friends. If somebody died in our para, Shankhu knows, I being a strong guy, I had to have one shoulder. That is how it used to happen for the Shamchan. People right now are so disconnected with each other, and the families being very small, they're all self-centered. Because there is no intention to do things for others or the basic ability to sacrifice, this thing has happened. Also, another thing that has happened for the new media is that if you look at our older generation, then they used to save their entire lives and spend at one point of time. Right now, we need everything now, like the American culture. In US, when you need the money more, that is when you can take the loan, the mortgage and everything. You have a very big house. When you go old, you actually move into a smaller house and with a list of facilities. With that kind of mental requirement, you also have to equally work hard. And I don't believe that we are anywhere inferior to China in any aspect, other than the fact that we have not been, given good opportunity. If you look at, say, for example, Hind Motor, we are the first vertically integrated plant of India in automobiles. But did we manage to get one single factory of BMW or Audi in West Bengal? No. So then again, that's a much bigger gambit of labor. Whatever you want to change radically, it is not going to happen overnight in a country like ours, Nilanjana. Let us face it. We can have a panel discussion, have everything happy, but what is the outcome? Outcome is big zero. So better to take small steps, which are easily achievable. Today, we all know that we can export. It is not a very difficult process. We can make a product which is easily sellable, which has the world as a market. China going off is huge. Be it textiles, be it handicraft, be it gift. There is no end to the amount of opportunity we have got. And MSME is what we have to focus, because that is the area where maximum people can be employed in a small way, rather than setting up a huge industry and trying to employ a huge amount of people with a lot of R&D and a top-notch product. So this is something you can immediately start and you can keep building on that. Big projects will happen, but that's a much bigger scale. I am only aware of what I do. That from that perspective, I see that even if China did not give this opportunity to us, we always had the opportunity. Why we could not? So for example, leather industry, no big brands get manufactured in India. Why? We don't have good leather. We don't use good chemicals. We don't follow the basic pollution standard that is needed to get approved. Now, that is not the fault of the Chinese. That is our own fault. You can't blame them for that. So, nothing great is required other than change of the mentality where you are willing to make a good quality and you are committed to that product. That is what is actually lacking. Once that comes, you don't have to do any rocket science. The rest will automatically follow. Today, you show me one company which makes, for example, Boroli. You can't kill the product. It has got no marketing. But you can't stop its sale. Why? Because the product is very good. It has got a clientele and they are keeping buying on it. So if the product is good, like for example, Thumbs Up. They couldn't kill Thumbs Up. Why? Because the product was strong. People liked it. It had a fan following. That applies to any product in any area. And India, you have to understand, any big change will take a long time. So what will you do? Not do anything. You tell me, if you look at West Bengal, for example, we are still looking at Dada. After that, where is the hero? No other hero. So I think we need to support any good entrepreneur who is brilliant. We should always promote him. Because what is going to happen? He will end up inspiring 10 other people. They will also inspire 10 other people. Like a chain, that is how, even in a small way, if they take smaller steps, we are able to get out of this. Rather than always thinking that unless something great is going to happen, I'm not going to do anything at all. That is never going to happen.
I think point well taken, sir. Start small, start today, start now. And everybody can contribute their bit into it. And of course, nothing large is required. If you wish to start, you can start today, you can start now. Now let us come back to our own industry, the HVAC industry. My next question will be to Mr. Bhattacharya. Sir, you have been in the industry for a very long time. And I'm sure you get this question very often from the youth that is this the right time to join the industry? Should the youth join the HVAC industry? If so, then why should they join the HVAC industry?
See, at this current scenario, Nilanjana, no industry can escape the disruption of COVID. So anyway, HVAC, we are a part of the community of HVAC people. So, but looking at this perspective, this pandemic has shown many things which should be rightly taken by the HVAC industry or the engineers involved behind the HVAC developments. Okay, so I would say that what 20 years back it was air conditioning was. Air conditioning 20 years back or maybe 25 years back, it was luxury. Now, if you see,
Request all the participants to please mute yourselves.
So
Please,
20 years, yeah, 20 years back, if you think about what was HVAC industry, it was luxury. And even before COVID, it was comfort, it was essential. So that was that we talk about that before COVID, that was a scenario. But now post-COVID, it will be health necessity. See, according to the air conditioning requirements, it will not go down because this pandemic scenario cannot continue for everlasting period. It will have its effect, it will subdue, and maybe it will end up after some times. Now, if you talk about the HVAC market, it is $5.9 billion by 2024. So progressing at a compound annual growth of around 7% during the forecast period of 2019 and 24, 19 to 24. And you see, many people will definitely agree with me. The major factors driving the growth in the market are increasing number of high-rise buildings, hypermarkets, Tier 2 cities, hypermarkets in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, shopping malls, complexes. So HVAC now would be an essential requirement, and definitely the as per the smart city concept of Indian government, definitely HVAC has to progress. So why people will think that HVAC market will slowly perish off? No, it cannot. It will come back, or it will bounce back in a different aspect altogether. Now the points how HVAC market will be looked after, the angle which change. Definitely the angle of HVAC thoughts of the HVAC engineers would change. Now we will be looking for a smart HVAC system. So primarily that may not be the thought of people who were taking HVAC for a comfort application or something. But now a smart HVAC system would come into a demand. Like we will have various controls, regulations, sensors. These will come in picture. And second point mine would be that we were doing air conditioning, basically the temperature reduction, the humidity reductions, or the air circulations. But we were never very much keen on part of the ventilation part, or maybe the air quality part. So air quality now would be the state that will be the essence of air conditioning, that we need to have a pure air or a better air or a treated air into the air conditioning premises. So now the question will definitely come that in that case, there were many people who are working in this industries, may not be a qualified engineer, or may not be of technical knowledges. So in that case, it will be difficult for them to cope up. So we need to have good young people with good engineering background who can really propel the next level of air conditioning requirements. And this definitely we would look for high efficiency systems. Like if you talk about the chillers, power efficient chillers, or VRV, these would be the systems which would get promoted more after these scenarios, because people will be looking for more better air conditioning solutions in this thing with power efficiency. And also I have one point, that the intelligence, that cloud-based intelligence, in fact the various chiller manufacturers are also going for remote monitoring or a cloud-based control over the systems. So that those parameters will definitely come into picture after this pandemic scenario goes off. So I really do not think that the HVAC engineers or the people from the core engineering or mechanical or refrigeration industries has anything to get demotivated that the HVAC industry will sink off due to the pandemics. No, it will not. We are there in ASHRAE will definitely, there are developments, maybe the new refrigerants, there are developments on the various ECBC norms, various people are working behind that, and definitely those things will get implemented slowly into the system. Okay.
Very rightly pointed out, sir, that it is an industry to stay. HVAC is the part of engineering that is here to stay. And there is also another important aspect which you mentioned, that it has got scope for IT people like remote monitoring and cloud-based. It has got scope for mechanical engineers. It has got scope for electrical engineers. It has got scope for architects. It has got scope for civil people who are working. So it is an amalgamation of all these engineering fields, and it requires really in-depth knowledge of all the fields. And of course, this industry is here for stay. So any youth who thinks to have a future in this industry, I think this is a correct decision that you are going to take.
Yes.
So moving on to Mr. Sarkar, sir, you are in the education industry. I mean, you are into education. Like we were continuing this discussion on core engineering fields, youth does not only mean young boys, youth also mean young girls. And we see very minuscule percentage of girls in core engineering, whereas we see IT and architecture having more of girl students. Where do you think the reform is required in the mindset, sir? Because I'm part of the HVAC industry. I definitely see very less women part of the industry, and I think that a lot of role has to come from the teachers, right from the school and the colleges, into setting up a mindset for the young girls as well, young bright girls as well, who want to be part of the core engineering fields. So where do you think the reform needs to come? How we can contribute? Because I think women will also become strong pillars for Atmanirbhar Bharat. And it is very rightly said that if you educate a man, you educate a man. But if you educate a woman, you educate a family. So how do you think, sir, where is the reform required?
Yeah, it's a valid question. What I can say that over the past few years, there has been a massive improvement when it comes to the women in medicine, business, law. But previously, all these fields are mostly male dominated. But whenever it comes to core engineering, things are not so much promising. So if I try to say that the common logic, the biologically that there are difference between male and female brains and the physical strength, this is frequently an argument to state that the women are not biologically designed for core engineering fields. But however, scientifically, this is not large. There is no evidence of that. And the biological differences alone do not provide enough proof and explanation there is a lack of women in core engineering. There are plenty famous women in science and technology who prove they are equally capable. And if you look curiously that the countries who has less gender inequality have more women in core engineering field, which is not in India. So if I try to make 4 points, what I try to figure out, that first point is that the environment shapes any girl's interest and motivation in core engineering field. If you just look at one study that performed in Europe, they showed that how women are treated in specific country has a direct correlation with how well girls perform in math test. So like girls from countries like Sweden, Iceland, where the society treats women more like equals, did as well as even better than the boys in math tests. Meanwhile, the girls from the countries like Turkey, where the gender discrimination is a great, showed worse math results than boys. So this is one environmental point. Another point is that the social bias. So like the society views women in core engineering job as less competent than the men, unless they are showing an considerable success. As even the people view them like less likely individuals. So this is also have a huge huge role in that. But what we can do, that which part is in our hand, that the college and the universities and the workplace are not making enough necessary changes to accommodate female students. So this is just, I'm giving an example. If you go to any core mechanical engineering department of any IITs or in Jadavpur University itself, it's very difficult to find a women's toilet. So it is very common thing. I have to accept this thing. So we need to change this mindset. And I think also that the different committees like different funds like TechIP, AICT, they are making these knobs. Like there must be some women toilets, there must be some facilities for the handicapped people, so that we are trying to make an inclusive society. So that attempt has government already has been started. You can even see that there are some reservation in for women in IIT examinations. So there are government is making some effort to create quotas so that they can promote girls. So there are a lot of efforts. And another point, the last point I like to mention, that there are also lack of role models. So we need to there must be some girls, they need to come forward and break this mindset and create role models. Then only the people, the girls, other girls will get motivated and trying to come up into this profession. So that is the summary I want to try to say.
So good points made, sir. I think environment is definitely playing a big role in that. And I think the environment does not only mean making a toilet or some facility. Environment would also mean the men in the industry, the men around us to be more inclusive, the men around us to be more open to having a female colleague. Let's say if you have a female boss, you equally respect her. For example, I'm the only woman in the panel currently, probably in the audience also. And it is mostly the case in other places also. And I think a large part of it also has to be the men who are working around us. They have to make us feel comfortable. They have to make us feel one in the family, one in the team, and not look at somebody as a man or a woman. Look at somebody as a human being. I think that identity should be carried forward. My next question, and probably the last of the panel in the interest of time, would be to Mr. Banerjee. Sir, the education policy stands reformed currently. And do you think that it has enough merits to take India's education at a point where it can support the Atmanirbhar Bharat? Owing to the discussions that we have had this evening, we see that education, research and development, core engineering fields, marketing, manufacturing, everything, the base needs to be education at the right level. So do you think that the policy has enough merits and it can support Atmanirbhar Bharat?
Thank you, Nilanjana. Definitely, this is my personal view on this. I believe this took a long time coming. Because there is a gap between the academic learning and the skill sets required for the industry. Those who are in the industry would also vouch for this, because students passing out, there is a challenge of this being industry ready, if I put it in that words. Also, we have been taught too many subjects in school, colleges, which later actually become irrelevant to the person who is taking the knowledge, because the interest level also changes of the student or in that regard. So, how many students actually in college today actually have the chosen the career that they actually wanted to? I would say you would find more of peer pressure, parental pressure, societal pressure working in their minds. I can give you some glaring examples which I have seen in my life, in my professional life. A mechanical engineer working in a software industry, or a physics honors graduate, changing course and getting into accounting desk job. What a waste of that study here. We could have actually given to somebody who is more deserving in that candidate. And the new educational policy is a revision after 1986. I was in class 2 that time. So that time we didn't even have internet, or mobile phones were like, space age for us. That world has changed completely since then. And coming to a point of, this supporting Bharat to become Atmanirbhar and merits it, what has actually bring to this with this educational policy? I'll give some very brief points and end with an example. It will give the power to choose what I wish to study, which unfortunately our generation didn't have it. And secondly, we have the pride to study in our mother tongue, at least to a certain extent level. When you can see the world history, and you can see all the world current affairs. Most of the industrially developed countries in the world have a very big pride in their mother tongue. Example: Japan, France, Spain, China, for that matter. And also, I would also include USA in that one, though it's in English, but with a different accent, right? And thirdly is the experiential learning and critical thinking, which is very important. I'll give an example on this. Like a civil engineer knows how to make a dam, but that would not solve the problem. He or she has to know the environmental and the social impact of building the dam, which unfortunately in the present scenario is realized by him or her during the manufacturing of the dam, not earlier. So this has to be learned. Unfortunately, is not taught in the classroom. So I would definitely feel, I'm sorry, I forgot to switch on the video. I would definitely say that if this things works upon as per what the government has thought about, this is my personal feeling, this will create a real sea change in our entire concept. And then the discussion which we started off, like MSMEs and Atmanirbhar Bharat and what the things we have planned up, if this educational policy goes hand in hand with that, we are looking for a superpower called India, maybe in our lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we have had a very fruitful discussion today, and we spoke about manufacturing, we spoke about marketing, we spoke about digital media, we spoke about mental health, we spoke about gender equality. I think all the important aspects pertaining to the Atmanirbhar Bharat, we have had an insight into it. We have had the eminent panel discuss it. And in the interest of now, we would like to conclude the discussion here only. I'm sorry, I could not take a lot of audience questions. I saw some of the questions and I saw that we have already taken care of some part of those questions inside our discussions only. Maybe we would have another panel someday discussing those. And in the interest of time, we would like to end here now. I would request Manish sir to kindly take over for the formal vote of thanks. I thank all the participants for joining this panel, this enthusiastic panel, and all the speakers and all the panelists in the panel for being so frank, so candid and open and sharing your views with us. I think that is most important when we have a panel, to be very candid and speak from the heart. We all did that, and I hope I could sail everybody through this panel discussion, and we had some meaningful insights also. Manish sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Nilanjana. Thank you. It has really been a very educative session, and I'm sure that most of the participants of this session would agree to that. It has been quite an informative session, and we had a varied view from an academician, two of the veteran industry people, and Mr. Roy, who is one of the pioneers, entrepreneurs from Eastern India. We are proud to have you here, sir. And thank you, Nilanjana. As always, it has been a very insightful questioning from your part, and which has brought out a panel discussion is always something which a moderator could pull it across. It is very if it is very informative if the right questions are put across at the right time to the right people, and especially we don't often have too many academicians in our midst because we are an industry organization. Thank you, Professor Sarkar, for being here and giving your thoughts to this industry society. And we look forward to many more such sessions in the future. And I hope it has been an enriching evening for each one of us. Good night then, and till the next session. Good night and thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.